Historically, leadership research was based from the perspective that leaders were born and not made. One of the most common theories was called the great man theory. That states that some people are born with a certain set of attributes that set them apart from others and ultimately lead them to being selected or elected into leadership positions. Leadership under the great man theory presents leaders as larger than life and a hero-like person who stays strong and fights for their followers. From a modern perspective, we can see how this presents a very narrow definition of what leadership is and who can be a leader. So with this definition, a leader can only be somebody who's charismatic or somebody who has a certain personality or demographic characteristics. So when we hear great man, right, there's one single definition of what it's meant to be a leader or who we expect to be leaders. So the research then continued, thankfully, to develop the story and started to get more complex, and scholars looked at leadership from different perspectives and considered what leaders actually do. Therefore, they shifted their focus from these characteristics to behaviors. So the researchers said it's not just about what you're born with or your personality, but it's what you do and how you behave that determines whether you are seen as a leader by others. And whether or not you're actually effective by a leader also depends on your behavior. So this is where the research started looking at things like inspiring others or clearly communicating or serving as a role model. Then the theories got a little bit more complex again. Scholars started looking at things like contingency factors that determine and shape which leadership behaviors are appropriate for which situations. When there is a match between the situation and the leadership style or behaviors, then an individual can be an effective leader. On the other side, according to this theory, an individual can be an effective leader in one circumstance and an ineffective leader in another one with the same behavior. So if I find myself, for example, right now in a crisis situation, then I'm going to be more likely to activate certain behaviors and start to show certain behaviors that are appropriate to that context. So that brings us then to the current study of leadership. So that's where scholars started to circle back and try to understand, again, these trait approaches, behavioral approaches, and contingency approaches to really have a more complex understanding of what leadership actually is. So then with this more complex understanding, the definition of leadership and what leadership can be became broader. So leadership can be an act or a behavior. It can be an instrument to achieve goals or influence others. Leadership can also be about communicating with others and understanding what they need. Finally, leadership can also be a skill set that can be learned. And this is a point worth emphasizing. When we look at leadership as a set of skills, skills are trainable and teachable. This means that anyone can be a leader when they focus on building their skill set and developing their own personal leadership style.